The biggest lie about generosity is that it's always free. The moment someone does something nice for you financially, pays your bill, lends you money, covers your rent, a quiet psychological debt opens inside your mind, and it changes every decision you make around that person afterward. In the next few minutes, you're going to understand exactly why financial favors feel heavier than any other kind, how they silently shift power between people, and what that process looks like inside your brain.
Here's where it starts. Deep in human evolution, reciprocity wasn't a social nicety, it was survival. Early humans who helped each other and returned favors formed stronger groups. Those who didn't were cast out. So your brain learned to track favors automatically, like a biological ledger that never closes. Psychologist Robert Cialdini called this the rule of reciprocity, one of the most powerful forces in human social behavior. When someone gives you something, your brain registers an imbalance, and it will not let you rest until that imbalance feels resolved. Not all favors are created equal. Someone holding the door for you creates a tiny flicker of gratitude. It fades in seconds. But when someone hands you money, pays off your debt, or covers something you genuinely couldn't afford, the feeling is entirely different. Why? Because money is measurable. You know exactly how much you owe. There's a number attached to the debt, and your brain fixates on that number. It also carries status. Money is a universal symbol of power and value in modern society, so accepting it from someone places them just slightly above you. That hierarchy lives in your subconscious long after the transaction is forgotten. When a financial favor happens, your brain activates the same neural reward circuits as physical pain, specifically in the anterior insula, a region linked to moral discomfort. Studies show that unresolved social debt triggers low-grade anxiety, similar to the feeling of owing a physical object that belongs to someone else. This is called cognitive dissonance, two conflicting states, the warmth of being helped and the discomfort of being indebted. Your brain wants to resolve this tension, so it starts looping. You replay the favor, you calculate how to repay it. You feel a subtle sense of diminished autonomy around that person, and this loop can run quietly in the background for months or even years. Here's the part that almost no one discusses openly. When a financial favor is given, power shifts, and both people feel it, even if neither says a word. The giver gains quiet leverage, not necessarily through intention. They may be genuinely kind, but leverage exists regardless. The receiver begins to self-censor. They avoid conflict with the giver. They say yes when they'd otherwise say no. They feel uncomfortable setting boundaries. Researchers call this the Benjamin Franklin effect in reverse. While Franklin showed that doing someone a favor makes you like them more, being the receiver creates a subtle deference, a lowering of your own psychological footing. The favor becomes an invisible weight on one side of the relationship.
Gratitude is healthy. It's one of the most well-studied positive emotions in psychology. But there is a tipping point, a line where gratitude quietly transforms into obligation. And that line is crossed when the favor becomes part of the relationship's identity, when the giver references the favor, directly or indirectly, when you feel you can never quite be on equal footing, when every interaction is colored by the memory of what they did for you. At that point, gratitude has curdled. What was once a warm feeling becomes a constraint. And psychologically, constraints breed resentment, even toward people we genuinely care about. This is one of the most common and least talked about sources of conflict in close relationships.
The favor was so large, or the receiver so unable to repay it, that it simply stays open, indefinitely. This is where the psychology becomes most damaging. Research on social exchange theory shows that unresolved reciprocity obligations create chronic, low-level stress. The brain never gets to close the loop. Instead, it compensates. Sometimes the receiver devalues the giver, unconsciously minimizing the favor to reduce their own discomfort. Sometimes they become overly agreeable, bending their own values to feel less indebted. And sometimes the relationship fractures entirely, not from conflict, but from the quiet, suffocating weight of a debt that was never meant to harm anyone.
So what do you actually do with this knowledge? First, name what you feel. Simply labeling the psychological debt, acknowledging it consciously, reduces its hold over your decisions. Research by psychologist Matthew Lieberman shows that naming an emotion reduces activity in the amygdala, the brain's alarm center. Second, separate the favor from the relationship. The help someone gave you doesn't define who you are to each other. It was a moment, not a permanent contract. Third, if repayment isn't possible financially, look for non-financial reciprocity: time, skills, support. Your brain responds to reciprocity in many forms, not just money. And finally, if the giver is using the favor as leverage, consciously or not, that's a relationship boundary worth examining. Generosity that comes with invisible strings attached isn't really generosity at all.
Financial favors are one of the most psychologically loaded acts in any relationship. They can bind people together or silently pull them apart. The brain doesn't forget what it's owed, but once you understand the mechanism, you can choose how much power it has over you. If this gave you a new way of seeing your own relationships, subscribe for more psychology content like this. A new video drops every week.